lovely to have you here.
My absolute pleasure. I'm excited to be on board.
Thank you so much. So for anyone who doesn't know about yourself, your family, and your beautiful Bongo that you're in at the moment, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit background to you?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Jenny and my husband's Jason, and I've got two little boys, Arthur and Ezra, who are now 7 and 6 years old. And we've lived all over the place. We've traveled all over the place. And I run Travelynn Family, which is a blog about dispelling the myth that you have to wait to travel with kids, seize the moment and don't wait, go whilst they're young. And with our kids, we've traversed Africa in a Land Rover. We've lived in India with them. They've hiked the Himalayas, backpacked Sri Lanka and Thailand. And through these adventures, I've been sharing them on our blog and our Instagram, and that's how Travelynn Family has grown. But obviously, we're not traveling that much these days. And when the pandemic hit, like a lot of people, we were like, maybe it's time to get a camper van. And for us, I mean, a lot of people buy a camper van for freedom.
Yeah.
But ironically for us, that was a reason why we didn't get the Bongo was because we didn't want the restrictions. So for us, we always wanted to head off on a plane and be able to live in India and go there. But if you've got a camper van, you feel tied to the fact that you've bought this thing and it's sat in your driveway and you've got to use it.
Yeah.
So pre-kids, my husband and I had travelled around New Zealand in a camper van. We loved it. We talked for years about getting a camper van. But we kept on saying, if we do that, we can't go to Australia. If we do that, we can't go to India.
Yeah,
and it's like, pandemic hit and we thought, wow, things have changed. The way we travel isn't going to happen for years now. Let's get the Bongo. And oh my word, he is part of the family. We love him. He's absolutely perfect. He's a Mazda Bongo. He's a 4-wheel drive. The kids sleep up in the roof. I'm in the Bongo now. And this, we have rock and roll bed that we sleep on. And so, I talk more about our lives in the Bongo now. And then on the side, because we live in the Peak District, like the oldest national park between Manchester and Sheffield, I also run Peak District Kids. So that's a website all about sharing walks and bikes and activities for families adventuring in the Peak District.
Amazing.
So we're, as a family, we're all about getting out in the outdoors, exploring as much as we can, having adventures and creating those memories together through the outdoors.
I love that. I think that's what it's all about. I think for me, life is about, like, if you've got kids, or if you're with someone, or even if you're on your own, it's about getting out there and just exploring and slowing down a bit as well, isn't it? Taking time to just enjoy. Definitely.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, and I think that's the thing with when you're camping and going day by day, living in a camper when we're doing longer term travel, it's like you have to slow down. You can't brush your teeth quickly in the van. You can't wash up quickly in the van. You can't get dressed quickly. No. It really does force you into that slower pace of life, which you end up naturally appreciating. And that in itself filters to the fact that you're living outdoors. When you're in a camper, people are like, how do you fit in there? And it's like, no, this is where our fridge is, and we keep our clothes and we sleep. But when we're traveling in it, we're living outside,
outdoors, definitely. So with Bongo's quite new, isn't he? I mean, with the pandemic and everything, with buying him during that time, is there anything that you've had to change or adapt to make it work for you as a family?
Oh, do you know what? We were super lucky with him. So he's coming up to his first birthday with us. I think he's about 30 years old. So he's an old classic car. They're imported from Japan and they're not made anymore. And
they stopped making them.
They stopped making them. Yeah, they stopped making them. So prices have rocketed. So we were so lucky to get him with what we did. But for us, we knew that we wanted a side conversion. So that means we've got our fridge, we've got a little stove, we've got our sink here, and we've got cupboards. We knew we wanted that setup. And when it comes to mechanical stuff, my husband and I are really like we just don't get it. We're just really not confident.
You either know or you don't you? And if you don't, do you go to YouTube or?
No, do you know, thankfully, my father-in-law knows his stuff. So we were like, this is our budget. This is what we're looking for. And he worked his magic on eBay. He even, bless him, he even came with us to buy the bongo and check over it for us. So we're forever indebted to him because honestly, I think otherwise we would have had to go through a proper conversion company and pay double or more now probably. So as for changing him, really it's just aesthetics. It's like obviously you've got to have some kind of
some little lights,
styles, like I've just painted him. This is just normal chalk paint that I've painted on top, and these are like sticky tiles that I got from Amazon.
Oh, they're stick-on ones. I like that you've got your tiles as the wall feature. It's like a proper, like when you've got a little kitchen and you've got your tiles, but where it's a smaller space, it works so lovely. It just adds a little bit of texture and colour, doesn't it?
Exactly. And a few things. We had this like black flame down the side of the bongo. And I put it on Insta stories. I was like, oh, shall I keep it? And everyone was like, yeah, keep it. And I'm like, yeah, it's not your bongo, it's our bongo. And I'm like, boy racers would pass us and be like, yeah, you're cool. And I'm like, no, we just a family. And also it didn't match my rock and tile. So we did get rid of that. And then just things like I tell you, a big thing we had to do with the bongo is because they're from Japan, they something about underneath, they're prone to rust because in the UK it rains a lot and it rains, and so you have to put a sealant underneath. So there were a few little technical things like that, and do you know what, he is an old vehicle, so he's gone for his recent MOT, and we had to pay out a fair few hundred for things to get fixed.
But it's done, isn't it? It's done,
and he's our second home, and also we use him as our main car. Like if we're going like around the Peak District, we've got a little car, but if we're going off further, even if just for a day or down to my folks down in Kent, we use him. So
oh, that's so nice, that's so cool. And you were sort of touching on that you've got your sleeping arrangement. So your family of four, you've got your two kids and yourself and your husband. So do you have a pull out bed for the middle and then the kids sleep on top? So have you got a pop top or high top?
Yes, so what happens is at the top there's an AFT button, so that's the auto free top, and it extends up to make a tent on top. And it's actually really spacious up there. So the boys have that as their space.
I bet they love that.
Oh, they love it. And it honks a little. I'll be honest, it honks a little up there. I've got like a new spray. It's just boys. They just smell. So they go up there and they climb up through a hole that we have in the roof here. And then what I'm sat on here is what's called a rock and roll bed. So this is where the kids, when we're driving, the kids have their car seats on here. But when we're parked up and when it's time to go to sleep, my husband and I, we just pull this out and we sleep down here. And I'll be honest, it's quite narrow, so it's quite cozy. But my husband's over.
Narrow. Because your sort of your arm span, can you touch each side of the wall or?
Well, if I'm sat here, so my right hand side is next to the cupboard, and if I stretch my left hand out, that's pretty much the extent.
Right, yeah.
So that's the width. But my husband is over 6 foot, so some people have the bed so it's widthways, but for him he can't stretch out. And you know what? Hand on heart, we all sleep so well in the bongo. It's never been an issue. I mean, maybe it's because we drink red wine a lot before we go to bed.
Oh, that helps.
But I may just being outdoors all the time, but we always sleep really well in him. He's very cozy to sleep in.
That's really good. And I think it's really nice that although Bongo's small, some people think, oh, I can't go for that because how do I fit like myself in or my family in, but it's doable. Like you say, if you're outdoors, it's just somewhere to be able to sleep and then go on to the next adventure, isn't it?
Exactly that. And that's what it is. It's like with the Bongo, it's the outdoors becomes a living space. Like you have your breakfast outdoors, you have your dinner outdoors, and we have got an awning that attaches onto the side.
Yeah.
Should we need shelter? If I went to France last summer, where we stay at a campsite for a week at a time,
Yeah.
and we just make ourselves more settled when we're doing that. So we would get the awning up, and I've got boxes that fold up, and
Yeah.
I put them in the awning, so it's like our wardrobe is there. So it just
it makes it
we
easier.
do spread out if we're at a place for long. But then if we're just going somewhere for the weekend, we don't bother with the awning. It's not really needed. But as for, I mean, I do get it a lot where people say to me, "Oh my God, how do you all fit in there? It's so small." But it's all about expectations. As a family, we, as I said before, like we backpacked around Asia a lot, and in a backpack, like, so when my kids were, when we lived in India,
just living from that backpack, don't you?
exactly, yeah. Like when we lived in India, my kids were 1 and 3 years old, so they didn't have a backpack. Between my husband and I, we carried all the stuff for all the family in a backpack. Now, if you took out the contents of that backpack and put it in the cupboards in this Bongo, you're like, oh my God, there's so much space. And similarly, like we traversed Africa in a Land Rover with roof tents for 4 months.
Oh, fab.
And that's when we had like 2 roof tents on the top that came up. But it wasn't like the Bongo. There wasn't living space inside. We basically had the booth with a big fridge and all the stuff. So again, we did that for 4 months, and it was never an issue. So for us, with the Bongo, we're like, oh, look, we can get a fridge in here.
I feel like you've got more space.
Exactly. It's totally about expectations. But then I know I've got a friend who drives a Heimer camper. Have you seen them with the big open?
I love those, but they are wide, aren't they?
They are wide. And I've seen, like, just give me a little tour inside. And honestly, it looks fantastic. She can take so many toys. They can take extra tents, and they can. But I think it's with anything in life, you fill the space that you have. So if you live, like I was saying to you before we came onto this podcast, we've just moved house, and we've gone from a bigger house to a smaller house. And it's like in that bigger house, we just expanded. If you just keep things because you're like, oh, I've got the space. But if you've got a smaller space, you just adapt to it. And we just love him. We love him.
Oh, I love it. He's so lovely. So you were saying about that you've traveled a lot pre having your kids, and that you've traveled with your family as well. And I think I read somewhere that it's about 22 countries that you've traveled to so far with your family. Is that right? Or is that in all?
Do you know what? I think that was one day I thought, I'll put that up on the website, and I counted it, but it involved me counting again. But it was probably some time ago, and really no one's travelled much in the past couple of years anyway. So
you've travelled a lot, though. Even as a family, though, you've travelled a lot, which is amazing.
Yeah, we have. In fact, my husband and I met at university, and really, we travelled every opportunity we could. We lived in Italy for a bit, we lived in Australia, we lived in New Zealand, and we actually, back in 2007, we did a trip where we travelled overland from London to Sydney and got a freighter into Australia. So travel's always been a big part of our lives. And in all honesty, we kind of put off having kids because of our love of travel. And when we did finally be like, look, I really want to have children now. Let's have kids. And thankfully, everything fell into place for us. Within a couple of months, we were like, shall we just try a trip to Morocco? Let's see how that goes. And before we knew it, we'd very easily slip back into the way we always used to travel. And it sounds so cheesy, but honestly, traveling with the kids is a whole different experience, and all for the better. We've returned to a lot of places that we traveled pre-kids, and hand on heart, we get so much more out of the experience because children break down those barriers, and people are intrigued about the kid. Like I remember being we've been to Thailand so many times, Bangkok countless times. And I remember walking around the Grand Palace and with the kids, and some monks came over to us and they wanted to play with the kids and chat with them. And then they took us into a different temple and we joined some other children, and the families shared some food with us and everything. Now that was an experience that we'd been to Bangkok and been to the Grand Palace about 5 times before. But we never had that in with the kids. So the traveling with the kids, people say, oh God, how do you do it? Yes, it's hard. It is hard. But parenting's hard. And for us, it's just a different backdrop to our parenting anyway. It's going to be parenting's going to be difficult in the Peak District. It's going to be difficult in Timbuktu.
Sure.
So we love traveling with our kids as much as possible. It's very much a big part of us.
I love that. So for anyone who is perhaps at that early stage where they'd like to have a family, or one day would like to have a family, but they're just like, oh, how do we do this? Are there any tips of how you feel like you make it possible to do it? I know sometimes people say, like, you know, just got to do it, but sometimes people then think, but what step do I need to do? Do I just book it? Do I need to think about a few extra things, or does it just vary for everyone?
And do you know what? It's the case of don't wait. I think we've all realised with this pandemic that things can change very quickly. And I know a lot of families who are waiting to do a gap year with their kids so they were the right age, and it's all fallen through because of COVID. But also, don't necessarily jump in and hire a Land Rover and go around Africa. That was a pretty hardcore trip we did, but we'd done lots of different trips before that. Like our kids have been around India in tuk-tuks, and we've taken them up to the Himalayas, and it is a gradual step to push those boundaries to know what you're comfortable with as a family. So in all honesty, a lot of families here in the UK may be trying camping for the first time. That's brilliant. Enjoying the camping, you learn so much from. I mean, the trajectory from how much you know from your first camping trip to your second camping trip is like we're all closed by the second one. It's like, oh, and it's just like a light bulb moment. And it's the same like that with overseas travel and adventure travel. It's do those little steps, maybe then go camping in France, and then maybe hire a car next time, or take those steps to see how you feel comfortable. And each to their own. I've got some friends here like, oh my God, my kid's a nightmare when we're on holiday. Then it's just, and I think a lot of it is the parents have an expectation of what's supposed to happen on a holiday, and that parents think, right, I've paid for this holiday, right, I need to sit with my book by the pool and relax. And that is never going to be relaxing because the kids need to be entertained. And actually what you might find is by going somewhere where you can walk from your front door and walk down to the river, and people can go and kids can go paddling, that's going to be a more of a relaxing holiday. So it's all about adjusting expectations. You're not going to sit with cocktails by the pool being served by naked waiters. You've got kids now. It's like expectations change, and you do, and not to say necessarily you have to make sure there's kids clubs. It's just find things that as a family you're all going to enjoy together. And it'll be more relaxing.
Definitely. I love that. And going back to Bongo, and now that you as a family are able to sort of travel and explore around the UK and things like that, what does mum need when on the road? Are there some things that you need yourself to make things just a bit more enjoyable?
Wine.
I thought you were going to say wine.
No, it's so funny you say that, because I'm the chief packer in the family, and every single time we go off on a trip, I've forgotten something for myself. Every single time. There's always something like, a menstrual cup. I always forget my menstrual cup. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. It's like you're so focused on. Exactly. You're always focused on what the kids need. But really, as coming back to what I was saying before, is like, as long as the kids are happy, it just makes your life easier. And I think you can always buy stuff. If you forget about anything, you can always buy stuff. But for me, when the kids go to bed in the evening, if I've got my comfy camping chair and I've got a glass of wine, I've got my Kindle with me, yeah, I'm super, super happy.
You're happy.
Yes.
So it's just having those things for you that you need. And it is, like you say, it's actually quite the simplest of things, isn't it? Just have
It's
a bit
just
of time
time
for
out.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all parents just want time out. So if you've got
Yeah.
something for time out where you can just sit and chill and have your own time, then yeah, that's great.
Nice. And to remember to pack it. That's the thing, isn't it? It's hard.
Yes,
I always forget things, so God knows what I'd be like.
totally.
Oh, so financially, with yourself and the family, you're thinking about going on lots of lovely trips in the summer holidays. How do you make things work? Do you work remotely, or do you have a job that you work and go to, and you do that to live for your holidays? Have you got like a little rhythm with that at all?
Yeah, so first and foremost, with us, any disposable income for us goes to travel. That's always been a priority for us. I mean, honestly, the car we drive around in, well, it's a Peugeot 107. It's absolutely tiny.
Yes,
It's about
they're the best.
it's old. It's like, and a Bongo. We didn't go for a VW, we went for a Bongo. It's like we make life choices so that we have the money to spend on travel. And for us, yeah, travel is a huge priority. As for how we make it work, my husband can work remotely, which is really, really good. And for me, my work is the blog. It's both Peak District Kids and it's Travelynn Family. And there was a time when Travelynn Family was earning really well, but obviously with the pandemic, that's not so well now at all. And actually, that's how I then moved over to Peak District Kids. And actually, business wise now, work focus, that is my main earner, and that's what I focus on. But similarly with that, that's very flexible, that it's my own business. I put into that what I want to put into that. So with the summer holidays coming, and with half term and just picking the kids up from school, I've had to find work that fits around that, because we haven't got grandparents that live nearby, and we don't want to get a nanny because, one, we can't afford it, but two, I'd never be able to justify it, because I'm like, well, that would go to travel.
I was going to say.
I've always had to find work that can fit around the children. And I do feel very, very, very lucky that I have been able to make blogging into a business. But as we know, the pandemic, it's a very up and down business. And thankfully, my husband is the one with the constant income. So, and then I have a great month or I have a bad month. So because of the partnership that we have together, we can make it work. But if we both had very fixed hour jobs, our way of traveling just wouldn't be possible. So again, it's just about life priorities. We want to live that way and be able to have the flexibility. So I did fall into blogging. I didn't think, right, I'm gonna have my own business. And
I love that. I love that.
Very much. Yeah, it's very much. I fell into it, but then I've had to learn a lot along the way about SEO and how websites work, and knowing what works for me as a brand, because so many bloggers do things differently. And it's just a case of always honing down and being efficient with my time, because there's always more work to do, there's always something else to do, but you just have to be really strict, and you never switch off. As soon as I wake up in the morning, and like even now when we're doing this podcast, I say, right, wait a second, I've got to turn my notifications off, because there's always stuff coming through with the blog. So
it's really go on, sorry.
No, I was just saying it's great because it's flexible, but it's difficult to be able to switch off.
And it's really interesting you say that, because I find that with Stitcher as well, because there's always something to do, and it's only this week that I've realized, you don't have to do that all in 1 week. You don't have to do it all in 1 week, but for some reason, sometimes I try and make myself do 1 week's worth in one day, but you can't do it. You can't do it.
You can't do it. And I'm still terrible. I write a big list at the beginning of the week, and on Monday I look at my list and I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. Mondays and Tuesdays are always manic days because pretty much I've done the whole week's work that I wanted to do in the day. So it's time management is always an issue, but we can be flexible. And also it's the travel opportunities that have come through the blog, in that a lot of the stuff we do is hosted. Like we've had some incredible trips, like a whole trip. We've had 2 trips to Iceland hosted, places in Africa. Yeah, we've had a lot of stuff where companies want to use our social influence to reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
Then even that, people are like, oh, you get free holidays, that's fabulous. It's like, oh, it's even then you are constantly working, you're always getting content together,
because you have to get the content ready.
Yeah. So it's like, yes, we've had some incredible opportunities, but it's with anything, being self-employed and running your own business, it's all about balance and the focus of why you did it initially.
Yeah, sure. And I think with people who have their sort of movable and tiny spaces on wheels, whenever you look up like, how do I do this? How do I earn money whilst, for example, I'm on the road? And I think a lot of people tend to see like blogging come up, but they don't know where to start. Have you got any tips for people at that very beginning stage of how to, because it takes time, doesn't it, to build up a following and things like that? But I know you've said, for example, about SEOs and things like that. Have you got any tips for people who are starting out and how to reach people? Like, for example, with the hostings, how did you reach those people before they started coming to you?
But you know what? My biggest word of advice is get off Instagram. Do not bother with Instagram.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm lucky that I get hosted. We've got some coming up for the summer, some hosted stays. But I've been doing it now for almost 5 years, and Instagram was a totally different ball game even 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
There are so many influencers out there with fake followers, fake like counts, and it's unless you've got something totally outrageous and niche, it's a lot of work to build up that following for now very, very little gain. And really, you just need to think, why are you going into blogging? What is it about blogging that you want? And if it's to make a passive income where you can switch off for a couple of weeks at a time and then dabble into it, for me, it's focus on a website. Focus on a website, learn SEO, which is search engine optimization. Learn how that works and focus all your energies in your website so that your posts appear top on Google.
Back to you.
Yep. And then you can get advertising agencies like Mediavine, Zoic, AdThrive. There's just some of them. And that means you have ads on your website that are running. So when people are looking at your content, you're getting paid for looking at those ads. But travel blogging, even family travel blogging, there are so many now. There are so many.
Yeah, that's it.
The big thing is niche down. And Travelynn Family, which is a travel blog, admittedly, we're not really traveling much these days, are we? Not people. So that used to get 40 or 50,000 page views a month pre-COVID. That's now down to 2025. Okay. And that's not really going anywhere anytime soon because we have a lot of Africa and Asia content. But Peak District Kids in the past month has had 160,000 page views.
Wow.
So, and that's a website that is I started up last February and we've had it through a pandemic as well.
I see.
So it just shows the benefit of niching down, becoming an expert in that area, learning SEO really, really well. And that's when people are saying, oh, how do bloggers earn money? For me, that's how you do it.
It's amazing. And with the SEOs, is there something that you went to learn how to find the SEOs? Because if someone's starting out and they go and sort of Google like how to learn SEOs, there's so much out there and so many resources and things linked to like valuable resources as well, for example WordPress and Spotify, Shopify and things like that. But is there something that worked for you that might help other people?
What worked for me is isn't what I would suggest for other people, because for me it was more of an organic growth with the blog. It was the case that I started the blog just the creative outlet. Then we moved to India and I got a lot of followers because we were a family traveling and living in India, which was something different. So it was actually quite easy back then to grow the following. And no one else was writing about traveling India with kids. So my posts were going up to the top very quickly. And it was only, so my success kind of was backwards. It was only with that happening that I was like, oh, how could I progress on this and grow this? And I joined lots of Facebook groups like Digital Nomad Wannabe, run by Sharon Goulet. There's also Keris. Oh, what's Keris's surname? She listens to this, she'll be annoyed I forgot her surname. Keris. Oh, oh my God, her surname's dropped. Oh, I can't remember her surname. Keris, message me and I'll but basically, and Keris is in the UK and she's done loads of stuff. So it's kind of joining these different.
And she's got a Facebook group as well.
Yes. What's her Facebook group?
Is it her name or?
No, it's oh my word, what is it? I'll have to message you later. I'll have to message you later. It's it's completely lost on me. But it was joining different Facebook groups and picking things up along the way. But I would actually say pay to sit down with someone like Keris, or she's got courses as well, and actually do a workshop with those kind of people. Is so like hands-on learning is so much better than sat down and try, because also there's so many bloggers that are like, oh, I'm going to teach you on SEO now, and it's just go to people who you know it really works.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's fantastic. It's so helpful, because I think people do get daunted where they're like, I want to do this, but I have no idea how to start. So I think that's really valuable advice.
Also, it's not a quick game at all. No. It really isn't a quick game. It can take years to build up a blog that actually brings in a nice income, and there's so much work that goes into it with building up the content and learning what you're doing as well. So in all honesty, if you want to travel, keep buying that lottery ticket, prioritize your spending. And you know what, the best, when we did our Africa trip, we saved a load of money, jacked in our jobs, and off we went. And then you're totally free, because when, like with this summer, it's my husband will need to work, and it's like he's going to have to make sure there's Wi-Fi access, and it's like really the best experience is to save your money. And you don't need a lot of money to travel. I mean, hopefully when the world opens up again, places like Africa and Asia, you'll spend less traveling in those countries rather than what you'd spend in the UK. So it's save.
I like that. And is there a tips? I think I read something on your lovely blog that you have, and it was about how to maximize your annual leave. So I like this idea of that if people want to, they can just save up and then go and enjoy like a holiday that we all have. But are there tips for maximizing your annual leave? Because I thought that was so interesting.
Oh, totally. I'm impressed you found that post. It's like really fun as well. You're properly stalking away. I love it. Maximizing your annual leave. Yeah, it's we are so precious over my husband's annual leave. We guard it and we do not give it away to anyone. If you've got a christening happening in the middle of the week, you better be my brother or sister, because you will not be able to go. We're so precious over it. And it also is looking ahead to the following year and seeing where the bank holidays lie. And just working out, I think, was it for this year? Often it's between the Easter holidays and the May bank holiday weekend. Often you only got to take out like 9 days or something, or 10 days, and suddenly you have a 21-day holiday. That's kind of exaggeration, but it is very much like tweaking and working around what you have. And then the beauty of the Bongo is that as soon as the kids finish school on a Friday, or maybe they have a dentist appointment and
go.
have to leave, we can just go. You go on a Friday, and then you get to the place by the Friday night rather than going on the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
We've also had it where, and my kids are hardcore and they're fine, they're still alive, but we've flown back on a Monday morning and then shipped them off to school that day.
Have you? That's amazing.
How do you do it? And I remember one time, actually it was May half term, this was before the pandemic, and we were camping down in the Dordogne, and the kids had to be in school on the Monday, and I think we had a 6 o'clock, no, it would have been a 4 o'clock morning ferry from Dover, and we're up in the Peak District.
Oh,
and we literally just drove up, got them changed in the car. I was like, off you go to school. But for them, they'd slept in the car on the way, and they were like, oh, we were in France yesterday. There's kind of a novelty.
Yeah, it's all exciting.
Yeah, they're adaptable kids. They really are. Gosh, that feels like a different lifetime ago when we used to travel like that. But yeah, it's just the case of just maximizing around work, or having a day where it's like, I mean, we're now embracing flexible working more.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Look, can I work from home this Friday? Yeah, of course you can work from home on Friday.
Yeah.
So if it's in the wherever it is, go on the Thursday night, get there, work from your hotel or your Airbnb, your cottage, wherever you're staying, or your Bongo. Work that day. Obviously, it depends on your boss and what kind of work you have. I mean, it's, if you're a nurse or a plumber or something like that, it's a bit trickier.
Yeah.
But even so, a friend of mine is a nurse, and because you can work extra shifts and shift things around, she's been able to have like month-long holidays at a time just from moving things around. So every job is different. It's just a case of being clever with your time.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. Are you quite a planner, or are you seem clever in planning in some respects, and then really like amazingly spontaneous in terms of like traveling and things? Or do you plan all of your travel?
Do you know what? I love planning the time for travel. So I like planning, right, this is when we're going to go traveling.
Yeah.
Okay. And they'll have like a rough idea. So like, for example, when we did the Africa trip, it was like, right, this is our pot of money. If we split this into, if we say, right, £50 a day is our budget, that goes across so many days, right? So if we get a flight on this day, that leads to that day, brilliant. So from that angle, I'm very much a planner. But then when we were there, literally, there are days where we'd like pack up the roof tents and hit the roads and not really know where we're going that night.
I love that.
So, I mean, it really does depend where you go, because in India, for example, their trains get so booked up. You have to book months in advance. I mean, you can rock up and get tourist tickets, and there are ways around it. But there's some things you have to plan if you want it to happen. But once we had our train ticket, we have our accommodation sorted, you rock up and then kind of get the feel and vibe of it. And that's the thing with traveling with kids. I mean, keep it flexible. Don't try and cram too much in, because you're going to get stressed. Chill it out. Take it freely and to see where the days go.
I love that. I love that. So on Instagram, I always like to ask the Stitcher community to invite them to ask you a question. And we've sort of touched on areas of it. So the question is, what do I need to make this lifestyle possible for me and my family? So you've given us some beautiful tips. Is there anything else that you feel that you need, or people will need, to make this lifestyle possible? I mean, we would always say, if I had all the money in the world, if I won that lottery ticket, I'll be off and I'm gone with my family.
Exactly.
But where we're not all in that position, is there something out there that you think this is
to make the traveling life work, or the Bongo life?
I think the two, really. So like with Bongo, there's your lifestyle of traveling as a family, whether it's in your Bongo or abroad.
My biggest advice is keep it simple and lower expectations.
Yeah, I like that.
And it is really all about priorities. If you want to travel as much as possible, then cancel that gym membership and
Yeah,
go running
shift things
instead.
around.
So
Yeah.
sell that expensive car, and hey, my Peugeot 107 is great.
Yeah.
It's really question where your money goes. And I mean, I feel like we're in a very privileged position to be able to have that conversation as to where our money goes. I
Yeah.
appreciate that's not for everyone,
Yeah.
but do you need to max yourself out on that mortgage? It's I think we live in a world where you feel you need the big car, you need the big house, you don't, and
No.
it really is about priorities. And as yeah, just keeping it simple and flexible, just seeing where the days go, and don't put pressure on yourself, because you would get so much more out of it by just jumping in the bongo, seeing where you land that day. Oh, that's a nice beach, and
Yeah, just going. I think
just
it's
chill it
really
out.
nice. It's important, isn't it? I think we put so much pressure on ourselves in sort of today's society, and interestingly, I know that you were telling me before that you're moving house and you've downsized, and I think it's true. I mean, you don't have to have that big house. I know that I've had conversations where people say to me, and they'll say, oh, like, oh, maybe you need to stop traveling so that you can get a mortgage and get a house and things like that. And I think, oh, that doesn't sound me. And I think I don't want to do that. And you don't have to. You can sort of adapt, or you can get a smaller place that, yes, you do have something that you can rent out, say, when you're traveling, but you don't have to have that initial expense of getting a really, really big place. Or even instead of getting a bricks and mortar house, you might get a narrowboat house and things like that. So it's adapting it, isn't it?
It is. I think it's just have the confidence to jump off the conveyor belts.
Yeah.
It's like we very much have in this country a system that you go along,
Yeah.
and it's very easy, especially once you have kids as well, is to see where everyone's going in the same direction,
Yeah.
and it feels safe. It does feel safe, but to be the one that parks a Peugeot next to all the Land Rover Discoveries.
Yeah.
What's the expense? Range Rovers, that's what they are.
I know,
yeah.
yeah.
There's like loads of Range Rovers around me. And it's like, it really doesn't bother me at
No.
all. And I can understand where some people are like, oh, I can't be seen driving that, or I need to be seen to be successful. But I think
Yeah.
the definition of successful has totally changed now, and what's successful to you is totally different to someone else.
Yeah, definitely. It's making it work for you, isn't it? For your own self and your own family. That's perfect.
Totally.
I always like to ask all my podcast guests a question at the end, which is always to do with sustainability. So, sustainability wise, what do you wish that you or we had more of?
Sustainability wise,
Yeah, sustainability wise.
do you know, I'm going to take it to the bongo, actually, as we've been talking about the
Nice,
bongo.
yeah.
It's what I don't like about the bongo is that it's diesel. It's diesel, and it's not environmentally friendly,
Yeah.
and it stinks. And I wish there were like electric versions of the bongo to make them more sustainable.
Yeah.
And I do have a lot of guilt, actually, and that it's a diesel drinker. Yeah, it drowns it. Yeah. That's one thing I would change to make our life more sustainable.
Yeah.
I'd rather this was an electric car.
I can completely relate to that as well, because when I got the Stitcher show home for the brand, and to be able to travel in and take it to events as a little mobile shop, I needed something that was big, and it was so difficult to find a van that wasn't diesel, and it was so hard. And I know what you mean, you feel guilty, and it's the one thing where you're like, oh, if you just weren't, I would have still bought you. And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
Yeah, like we went to London over half term, and it was fine going in with the emissions and everything, but it's just the one little thing about him that I do feel quite guilty about. But I like to think that the way we bring our children up through adventuring in the bongo, they have a better connection with nature and our outdoor life, that they themselves are going to grow up to be more conscious of sustainability efforts around them.
Definitely. And just appreciative of sort of the world around us as well. I think
Mm.
it's really important. I think when your kids are brought up that way, they adopt it and they adapt it and they just listen to everything. I always sort of think about countries in Scandinavia, for example, how they bring up their children. Later on, they have so much respect for their land and if they're camping and things like that. And that's why they have the freedom to go and park up where they want and camp where they want, because they leave it as they saw it, which is really good, really.
Yeah,
so I think
totally.
it's really, really nice. Oh, Jenny, thank you so much for joining me today on the Tiny Sessions podcast. It's been so lovely to chat to you. It's been really nice. And for people to find out even more about yourself, I know that you've got your Instagram, which is Travelynn Family, but your website, as we've learned, is the best place to go to for resources, and your blog as well. So can you just remind us of those two blogs that you've got? You've got your website and you've got the two blogs.
So it's travellynnfamily.com. So Lynn is our surname. So it's travelynfamily.com. On there, you'll find lots of information about how we went about buying our Bongo, changing the interiors, to our Africa itinerary, in like India, Nepal and Sri Lanka itineraries, and more, Morocco itineraries and Iceland. So lots of itineraries on there, and the ways that we travel with kids to make life easier for us. And then, yes, I've also got Peak District Kids. So that's peakdistrictkids.co.uk. And in there's lots of walks and bike rides and just ideas to do with kids in the Peak District. All our walks have an Ordnance Survey map, and they're all detailed step by step. And we've got a lovely Facebook group. So if you're ever visiting the Peak District with kids or in your camper, whatever, we've got a lovely Facebook group, Peak District Kids Facebook group, and I think we're almost about 9,000 followers, group members on that now. Fantastic. So it's just lots of parents sharing ideas. So yeah, that's where you can find me. But for day-to-day stuff, I mean, I'm currently painting the house, and I'm asking on my Instagram stories what colours to use. So you'll find me on Travelynn Family. Yes.
I saw that, and for anyone who doesn't know about that, you put up two sort of varied shades of green, and then you narrowed it down to two. And when you narrowed it down, everyone said 50-50 on the two choices. Have you chosen? Or
I have chosen, but you know what this has taught me is that I could never be an interior design blogger, because it's like I'd made a decision last night, and then there's 50% of people saying that they don't like my design, and it's and do you know what, just reversing back to what we were saying about how to get into blogging, it's like I would never be an interior designer, because that's not my forte. I kind of like the idea of it. I'd love to get like free paints and free this and like make and inspire people how to do their home. But it's like, it would stress me out, everyone questioning what I'm doing to my own home all the time. So pick something that you love. I mean, this is your life. You've got one life to live it. Pick what works for you, for your family, and love it. But yes, thank you for having me on the show. It's been fabulous chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, Jenny, thank you. That was so good chatting to you. I feel like I've learnt so much as well. It's really, really inspiring. It's really lovely.
Oh, you're so easy to talk to, so thank you.
I'm glad. Oh, I'm really pleased about that. Oh no, it's been really good. It's so fascinating as well, because I do think there's a lot of people out there who think, oh, I'd like to have a family one day, or I've got a family and I can't go do these things. And you can, and I think it's really helpful for people to just know that you can and how you can do it as well.
Yeah, do you know, even us, it was drilled into us, and I don't know where we picked it up from, but it's like we, as I said, we put off having kids because we thought we couldn't travel. We thought it would be bad parenting, and it's not until you become a parent. And like, I'm in an echo chamber now of all these parents that travel with their kids.
Yeah.
And to me, it's now totally normalized. And so I find it really odd when I meet parents now. They're like, you do what with your children?
Yeah, they think, huh?
Exactly. I'm like, you don't. And it's really weird how, especially through social media now, you find your clan, and then you have this echo chamber around you that makes you think that it's all normalized. But actually, we're just living in these compartments on social media with our own. So it's, you can do it. It's just really interesting.
Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. Have you got a busy rest of your day today?
Yeah, I've got these new car seats that have come. I don't know if you saw them on
I
stories
did,
earlier. These new car
yeah. They
seats.
all
I've
fold
got
flat.
Yeah, brilliant.
They're
Yeah. So
amazing.
I'm going to do that. I was going to meet a friend for lunch quickly, then come back, do a little reel on that, and then pick the kids up at
Oh,
3:15.
it's always picking the kids up, isn't it? I know my sister-in-law, she's like, oh, yeah, I've got to be ready for this time.
Honestly, the day just goes so quickly, and yeah. So what we're going to France for the summer. I haven't actually announced this yet on Instagram. So we're going to France, and the thing is, we're going. So Eurocamp Independent are hosting us all these campsites,
No.
and we were supposed to go on the 31st of July.
Right.
But my husband and I, we were looking at the school. This is what we're saying about maximizing the travels. We were looking at the school calendar, and we're like, the kids finish, I think it's like Wednesday the 21st. We're like, why are we going on the 31st? Because we thought we had to go and see family. And we're like, well, those 3 days, they're going to be doing jack shit at school. So I think they're going to be ill those last few days. We're now in the process. So we're moving it. We're going to go to France on the 18th of July, which is now only 3.5 weeks away. So, and we're going to spend the whole summer in, because I think we don't know, like, things have been changing so quickly, but now in France, the borders are open. We're both fully vaccinated
now.
Yeah,
because they opened, then they closed, and now so they've reopened now. So do you not have to worry about vaccinations, or?
Well, we're both double vaccinated, so
cool.
we don't have to quarantine when we go over.
Right.
Boris is still keeping it on the amber list.
Yeah, that's why I get really confused, because it's for coming back, isn't it?
It's for coming back. So technically, when we come back, at the moment, as things stand, we have to quarantine, but you can lessen that to 5 days with an extra test.
Okay.
But we quarantined last year. That's no skin off our nose. We're in a position where we can do that. But there's now talk that if you're double vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine.
Oh, I see.
So we figure that if we're going in a few weeks, and we won't come back until the beginning of September. So by that time it comes around, who knows what the rules are?
Who knows? That's it. You can just follow whatever the rule is at that time, because it's always changing.
And if we do suddenly change it and France goes on to red, we're in France, we've got the Bongo, we can pack up and we can get back to the UK.
Yeah.
So that's what we're thinking at the moment. So yeah, we're just in the process. I just literally before I came on, I emailed Eurocamp. I was like, let's do it. Let's go earlier. We're gonna go earlier. So,
that's fantastic.
That's really looking forward to it.
So to get out there, you don't have to do anything.
Well, this is the thing. It's like, no, so we have to do, if you're fully vaccinated, you've still got to do a PCR test or antigen test. So the PCR test is 72 hours before you go, and the antigen test is 48 hours before you go. And children under 11 are exempt.
I see.
If you haven't been vaccinated, you have to quarantine in France.
I see.
Get over.
I see. That's
so
really interesting.
So the rules are kind of, they're there, but you've got to go searching for them, because every country is contradictory. And what our government is saying is that if it's amber, if it's amber, you can't go and travel. But hey, these countries are green, but the green countries won't let us in. So it's you've just kind of got to take it with a pinch of salt and work out which one to go to. But then on the other end of the scale, like, it's being an influencer and going over to France at this time. Like, when we went last year, we did it off our own back because Eurocamp cancelled on us at the last moment. And we thought, oh, fuck it, let's just go. And we rocked up in France, and I kept it quiet for a week because I was like, I don't want to deal with all the bullshit. But I understand, like, everyone, each themselves, like, totally get it. And because we went over, but basically the day before we were supposed to go to France, 10:30 that night, that's when Boris announced that the FCO were putting it on their list that you couldn't travel to France. So Eurocamp cancelled our trip automatically then, but our ferry was at 7 o'clock the next morning.
Oh, you already had your ferry booked.
So we had our ferry booked, and we just thought, actually, we're still covered on insurance with the European health card. let's just go. And actually we went over, and I remember hearing in the news was like, the queues at Calais are insane with everyone trying to get back. So there we are, we come off at Calais. I'm there with my phone, so I'm going to video it. I got back and I was like, got into Calais, and I was like, I've never seen Calais so dead.
There were
Absolutely dead. I was like, where is everyone?
Yeah.
I think that for me was my first insight into like,
into media and how they
maybe what they're telling us. It's like so to France we go. Hopefully if things stay as they are, we're off to France.
Oh, amazing. That's so cool. I'm so excited for you. Well, I shall let you go and get ready for your lunch.
Gosh, yes, what time is it?
Wonderful time. It's 12:05.
Yes, oh god, I better go. There's a meeting in 10 minutes, so yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
You too. Lovely chatting with you, darling. Okay. Bye.